It's trilogy time.
We've dug extra deep and went into overtime to uncover 10 more facts about your favorite candies. Those sweets that seem to call to you in the night while you should be sleeping or while you try to stay on that pesky diet. Sometimes we just have to answer that candy call. Go ahead. Your secret's safe with us. Here are 10 sweet facts about your favorite candy, Part 3.
Show me what you got!
A Peep wasn't built in a day.
I brought marshmallow Peeps.
Peeps were first introduced back in 1953, and although they pretty much tasted similar to the variety we know and love today, they sure didn't produce them as quickly as they do today. They were previously owned by the Rhoda Candy Company and are now owned by Just Born. When the candy was first introduced, it used to take the Rhoda Company plant workers a whopping 27 hours to make only one single Peep. Seems like production was a heck of a lot slower than the demand was, especially around the holidays. Peeps were and are still popular around the holidays, specifically Valentine's Day, Halloween, and of course, Easter.
Peeps!
These days, however, the Pennsylvania plant can pop out 5.5 million Peeps every single day. Now these days, they can seriously meet up with the crazy demands that the holiday seasons might present. And good thing, too. What's Easter without a Peep or two? Let's give a thought to the old plant workers, though. What did they do during the 27 hours it took for that single Peep to bake?
Try to take over the world with the Ted Turnerator.
Pez comes from Austria.
You're mine now!
The name Pez comes from the German word Pfefferminz, and yes, it means peppermint. And it totally makes sense, seeing that Pez was first offered mainly in a peppermint flavor. And interestingly enough, the candy was first invented to help smokers kick the pesky habit. It was invented in 1927 in Vienna, Austria, by an anti-smoking advocate by the name of Eduard Haas III. The company's slogan back then was, "Smoking prohibited, pezzing allowed."
Das ist gut.
This is quite interesting, seeing that many think that smoking was a little more accepted by society as a whole back then. But there were actually far many more people that were opposed to the practice, and even as early as the 1920s, as this little bit of information proves. Just goes to show you, though, how long it takes to convince society as a whole when something's bad for you, doesn't it? Like candy's better, many would say. Well, we'd like to think so.
Those were thought to be unhealthy. Precisely the opposite of what we now know to be true.
Pez were also designed to appeal to children.
Check it out. It's a John F. Kennedy Pez dispenser.
Seeing that the candy was launched to prevent people from smoking, or at least to turn people away from the habit, it is interesting to know that the design of their dispensers changed to appeal primarily to children as the years progressed. As we know them today, Pez dispensers can be some of the most colorful little trinkets, and they often feature the likenesses of many popular characters from the media and popular culture. In fact, it's been that way for quite some time.
What is that, a Pez dispenser?
You want one?
And because of this, they've become quite popular with children. But beyond this, Pez dispensers are quite popular among hobbyists and collectors, as some Pez dispensers go for top dollar on internet auctions as well as at hobby shops. So if you see a Pez dispenser in some shop and if it looks old enough but is still in good condition, pick it up. It may be worth much more down the line. An interesting thing to add about Pez dispensers and the candy in general is that the fun goes way beyond the eating of the candy itself. The actual playfulness involved and the experience is half the selling point. Not many other companies caught on to this phenomenon, and it served Pez very well.
He's doing great on the rehab. He's hooked on Pez.
Coffee Nut M&Ms.
As you can see, I am a giant coffee bean.
For those of you out there that are in need of some energy, maybe you can forego those energy drinks that seem to be taking up a lot of shelf space at your local corner store. And if you need the energy for exams, work, or a workout, there's no better energy than natural energy. And where's the best place to get energy naturally? Well, in coffee, of course, everyone's favorite beverage.
Yeah. Keep it coming. Put the pot down. Get away.
But a steaming cup of coffee isn't the only place to get a good shot of caffeine. People have been finding techniques to get that caffeine buzz any way they can. Chocolate-covered coffee bean, anyone? But what's probably more interesting and a tad more appropriate for us here today to mention is that M&Ms released a coffee nut-flavored M&M. Now, we don't know how much caffeine is actually in the mini pieces of chocolate and candy, but at least they taste of the stuff we seek at a few hour intervals every day of the week. So if you're trying to stay awake for that meeting, why not give them a shot?
No, thank you. I take it black. Like my man.
The two M's in M&Ms really do stand for something.
Seize the day.
For years, the general public has wondered just what the two M's in the name of their favorite candy stands for, if it stood for anything at all. As it turns out, the letters actually do have meaning, and they represent some pretty important pillars of the company. The iconic candies were named after the two associates who put the whole M&M train into motion, the creators of the delicious candies,
The M&Ms, man.
Bruce Murray and Forrest Mars. Forrest was the son of Franklin Clarence Mars, who first launched the company, and Bruce was a close associate at the time. So the name was meant to be, as they say. Take that, Marshall Mathers. These were the original M&Ms on the block.
I don't know what they told you, Mike. You must have them cornrows rolled too tight.
Lifesavers got their shape from medication.
But there's medicine in there too, right? No.
Lifesavers were unleashed onto the public back in 1912. That makes this particular candy over 100 years old. To some, that would pretty much be ancient, and although they didn't share time and space on the continuum with King Tut and his wild cats, they sure have been around for a long time. Hence the tenure they have on the market. Lifesavers are probably up there right along with the trusted Tic Tac as being the candy package most found in the depths of a bag or pocket. After all, it's just good sense to bring along a package of mints anywhere you go.
Definitely need some Tic Tacs or something, because your breath stinks!
And if mint isn't your flavor of choice, then they've got some sweet and fruity flavors as well. Now, many would say that the candy got its name because of its resemblance to an actual life preserver, and although that's true, that isn't why it has the particular shape that it does. Apparently, the inventor of the candy, Clarence Crane, was at a pharmacy, and it was while he watched a machine make a few pills that were round and flat that he got the idea that would serve himself and the rest of the world for years to come. Over the long years, the company changed hands many times, but Lifesavers are currently released through Kraft Foods. But no matter how many times the producer changes, Lifesavers have always maintained their classic medicinal look.
Did you just say lightsaber? I think you mean lifesaver.
How the Snickers bar got its name.
Dick Dastardly and his sidekick Muttley.
The particular names that products in the market go by can often determine the success they'll ultimately have, and a bad name can definitely be the end of a product in the food industry, no matter how great it tastes. If the public doesn't buy into the name, the product may be doomed. This might have been brought up back in the day when the Mars Corporation invented and released the Snickers bar, as the name is quite odd when we think about it. These days, it's normal to us because we're more than used to it, but back then, we're sure it raised a few eyebrows. Regardless, it was a success, despite the fact that the name caused us to chuckle at its expense.
Ha ha! Ha ha!
The candy bar was one of the first 3 to ever be released from the Mars Company, the other 2 being the Three Musketeers bar and, of course, the Milky Way, followed closely by the company's 4th invention, the Mars bar itself. Now, the names of the latter 3 bars are pretty self-explanatory, as the Three Musketeers got its name from the 3 original ingredients that were contained in the bar, nougat, strawberry, and vanilla. The Mars bar was named after the man who invented it himself, Franklin Clarence Mars, and the Milky Way got its name from the milkshake that inspired that candy bar in the first place. But often hard to determine was where the name for the Snickers bar came from, and the answer is actually a tad different and certainly not as obvious as these other 3. As it turned out, Franklin Clarence was raised on a farm in Tennessee, and Snickers was actually a racehorse that the family had owned for quite some time, but had unfortunately just passed on. Clarence named his famed candy bar after this horse as an homage. Just goes to show you that sometimes you have no idea what the stories are behind what you eat almost every day.
Wait, did you say you'd feel awful? or falafel?
M&Ms are quite popular among astronauts.
They're only doing that in the hopes that I won't raise any objections.
Who said space foods gotta taste bad? Certainly not us, especially considering this little tidbit of information here. When you think of space food, you probably think of powdered juices, meal replacement shakes, and the such. You know, things that travel well and don't make a mess. But as a recent poll shows, astronauts prefer M&Ms when it comes to their choice of candy to take up with them to a galaxy far, far away.
These dark chocolate M&Ms are a good idea.
And although we're quite sure that Darth Vader wasn't popping M&Ms while he planned the destruction of the galaxy, we could definitely see Han Solo enjoying a few with Chewie as they made their way from adventure to adventure. Quite interesting to think about, and it just makes us wonder, all those amazing historical expeditions in space, just how many of those astronauts had M&Ms in their pockets while they made those discoveries.
Make it so.
Smarties, Britain's response to M&Ms.
Delicious.
This particular candy is available in the States only by import, but it isn't widely distributed. They are distributed elsewhere in the world and do quite well, especially in Canada. So if your local store doesn't carry Smarties and this gives you a craving, you can always take a trip north of the border and have a taste of this awesome chocolatey candy. Well worth the trip, and you can always take loads and loads home for later consumption. The reason the United States doesn't carry the candy all that much is because there already are Smarties candies marketed in the country. The American Smarties are tablet pieces of candy that resemble multicolored pills.
Seriously, the perfect combination of aspirin and Tums.
So to have two brands operating under the same brand name would cause quite a problem in the market, it seems. The Smarties we're talking about today are a candy-coated chocolate disc, first introduced to the world in 1937 by Roundtree and Company, and are now manufactured and distributed by Nestle. They come in 8 distinct colors, which are orange, yellow, red, green, blue, mauve, brown, and pink. Interestingly enough, however, the blue was actually replaced with a white candy for a time because the company was trying to find a healthier substitute for the blue dye that was used in the blue candies. The colors don't really represent any specific flavors, as the candies all pretty much taste the same. The chocolate center, the focal point of the treat itself. But they sure are tasty, and if you get used to them, you may begin to ask yourself a similar question that many Canadians face. Smarties or M&Ms? Which do you prefer?
All right, I pick you.
A dentist invented cotton candy.
Cotton candy here. It's your cotton candy.
You're walking the midway at the local fair that has made its way to your town. You were at home, but something called you forth. Almost like a primitive call of the wild. Something summoned you from the comfort of your home to this whirlwind of fun set up at your local mall or beachfront. Maybe it was the music, maybe it was the people, or even the sound that the rides made as you were settling in for an evening of TV. But regardless, there was something in the air. So you make your way through the people that have come out and you finally realize what it was that got you here. The smell of the carnival food, popcorn, the hot dogs and corn dogs, and above all else, cotton candy being freshly made on the spot. You can smell the subtle scent of the heating sugar and you immediately want, no, need to have some. After all, you've been having cotton candy since you were a child, especially at such places. No matter how many times your parents told you to stop, you just couldn't get enough. And as always, as you munch on the soft fabric-like candy that you so love, don't worry about the dentist and that checkup you've got coming up, because we've got a response you can give them.
Take it up with my butt, because he's the only one who gives a crap.
You can tell them that cotton candy was invented by a dentist. So how bad can it actually be for your teeth? Although they may be flummoxed, it is the truth. As it turns out, a dentist by the name of William Morrison teamed up with a candy and sweet maker, John C. Wharton, to make a machine that turned sugar into strands of soft, sweet, candy-like fluff. They first named their creation Fairy Floss. It was in 1897 that they initially worked on it, but it wasn't officially released to the masses before the 1920s. And, well, the world certainly hasn't looked back since.
I like what you got. Good job.
Spend a little more time with us by checking out another one of our great videos. All you need to do is tap on that screen. And to join our notification squad, just hit that subscribe button and ring that bell if you're checking us out for the first time.